the meeting to order at 7:02. We'll stand for pledge of allegiance. And that was added today. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So if we could just speak a little louder so we can be heard all the way around, since there are microphones. Lauren, can you do roll call?
Teresa.
Present.
Michelle.
Here.
Kate.
Present.
Gladys is here, but not here. Lauren here. Jesse.
Here.
Bridget. Here. Julie.
Here.
Ralph.
Present.
Al.
Here.
Louisa. Here.
Okay. Favorite part. Public participation. Anyone here for public participation? No? But once, going twice, gone. Thank you so much. Okay, so consent calendar. Bridget, would you read the first motion?
Motion that the Board of Education approve the items on consent calendar exhibits 23-1 through 112 through 23-120 as recommended.
Second.
Motion made by Bridget, seconded by Kate. Any discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So motion carries. All right, flying through this here. Student representatives, doesn't look like it. No presentation, thank God. Action items. So, all right, Laura, can you A?
Action item A, I make a motion that the Board of Education accept the September financial report in accordance with 23-121.
Motion made by Lauren.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Russo. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, sounds good. Louisa, can you read the next one?
Yes. Additional appropriation request. Motion that the Board of Education requests a $400,000 an additional appropriation, City Charter Section 7-9F, for unanticipated special education expenses resulting from Public Act 23-317, an act concerning resources and support services for persons with an intellectual or developmental disability, extending the age for providing special education services, effective July 1, 2023, as recommended by the Finance Committee in accordance with 23-122.
Sure.
Second.
Seconded by Kate. Motion made by Louisa, seconded by Kate. Any discussion?
Discussion.
Go ahead, Al.
I was just reading the paper that the count we're asking to take it from, or is that something we don't need to deal with at this time? Are we asking to take it from the school reserves or the cities?
Oh, yeah, that was.
John or Kevin?
Go ahead, John.
Or is that up for the city to decide where it comes from?
Well, two things. The way
Speak up, John. We have no mics.
The way it's worded now, you're asking it to come from the city surplus. But a precedent may be a year ago when we asked for money for the deductible for the insurance. Here at the high school, when we had the gym floor problem, we asked for $250,000 also from surplus. And the mayor's office with the city finance director felt it would be better coming from reserves. So by the time it got to the city council, it had changed a little bit. I think it's certainly within their call if they want to take it from one place versus the other. I think we'd be indifferent to where they take it from.
Indifferent, possibly, accepted. I'd rather have it not come from our $5 million pot of gold.
That's
Personally.
the way it's worded right now, it would not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other further discussion?
So I'm not clear, Happy?
What's that?
I'm not clear what the funds will come from. At the end of the day, where is it? City Hall or
Where are we at, where are we asking, where are we
Where are we
gonna
getting
get
these
the
funds?
money from? Where are you asking to get the money from?
Okay, the city has two sources of funds. One is the city surplus itself, or fund balance. With the most recent audit, that was, the undesignated part of that for things like this was about $21 million at the close of the books. That's one place, and that it's worded, presently, we're asking it to be drawn down from there. The second source they have is on the city balance sheet are reserves specifically earmarked for educational purposes. We'll talk about that in the next one, but they could take that if they decided. It's up to the city council to release either of those funds.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, any other discussion?
So I have a quick question. John, do we know when the city council will tell us which one they will take, and by when can we get access to this money?
Well, the agendas for the city council are set by the mayor's office. So, we would know officially when that agenda is released, how it's worded. But I would imagine any change to what we're recommending, they would talk to us first about that. So, depending when they're getting the item ready, I'm sure we'd hear.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention from Al Russo? That's it.
Yes, sir. Not this sir.
Teresa, can you read the action item C?
C, Education Reserve Funds Request. Motion that the Board of Education requests the use of educational reserve funds in the amount of $202,274 for unanticipated technology expenses as recommended by the Finance Committee and in accordance with 23-123.
Motion made by
Second.
Teresa,
Second.
seconded by Julie. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Al, can you read D, please?
Superintendent goals, 2023-2024 SY. Motion that the Board of Education approve the superintendent goals 2023-2024 school year in accordance with Exhibit 23-124.
Motion made by Al,
I second the motion.
seconded by Ms. Cooper. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. You want me to go back? Student representative? Okay. All right, so before the superintendent's report, I'd like to, we see some student representatives here, I'd like to invite them up to speak, and that might be some public participation that we missed and I ran over too quick. So I'd like to see if they want to speak as well.
Okay, so for starters, some of you recognize me from last time. I'm Serena, the Vice President of Denver's Board of Governors. And
I'm Maya, I'm the Board of Governors Secretary. As Secretary, I do a lot of communicating information to staffs and students. I manage the social media accounts for our school and make flyers for all the events. I also communicate with clubs and administrators to make sure all the events go smoothly at DHS. So recently we just had our Spirit Week and Homecoming Week. It was 2 weeks ago. We had Barbie versus Oppenheimer, we had Jersey versus Jersey Shore. We had our class color day and we had orange and blue day. Participation was really well from both students and faculty. Our Instagram story featured reposts from dozens of students each day to showcase their school spirit. Speaking of Instagram, our social media is going really well. We have nearly 1,900 followers, and it's a great way to communicate with students, and it's getting more students involved and engaged. We also had over 1 million views on our TikTok, and we even had Microsoft comment that they really liked our homecoming, so that was really cool. It was like verified. We also had a pep rally Thursday, which is the class color day. It was incredibly successful and amazing participation in spirit from all the classes. The homecoming football game went well. Danbury won in overtime. We had a homecoming court and royalty were crowned during halftime. The homecoming dance was themed Tangled in Our Memories after the movie Tangled. Tickets were sold online this year and priced at $20, with nearly all 1,000 of them selling out. DHS and ACE students were allowed to attend homecoming to ensure the safety of students during the dance. We also had a food truck this year, the El Taco Loco, and students loved it, and the vendor earned a ton of money too. We also had the band jamboree the same day as homecoming, which featured like 10 plus schools. That went very well. We're thinking about organizing possibly a winter dance to boost spirit all year round and allow for the kids that were at band to attend the dance, because last time they had to miss it for their jamboree.
And all of this is, of course, thanks to our beloved advisors, Ms. Smith and Ms. Spiridon, and anyone who helped them out. They really helped us out by directing, us and what to do. And we wouldn't have been able to make all of it possible without them. And also, a lot of thanks to all the teachers and faculty that helped us out, directed the kids at the pep rally, chaperoned the homecoming, helped me set up the homecoming decorations, because I did need a little help with that. I wasn't tall enough. And also the band for sacrificing, their time to go to the one school dances for all grades. They did a spectacular job, and that's why we want to do, that's why I specifically want this extra dance for them and for everyone else, of course. And we also put together a BOG committee to help us with all these events, and we do plan on utilizing them in the future, but this time they helped us a lot with, planning and decorating the pep rally along with decorating homecoming. And obviously, huge thanks to the custodians, because they were the ones who helped us clean up, and I had to clean up beforehand. It was not fun, so I can't even imagine cleaning up afterwards without all their big fancy machines. So that was amazing. Aside from that, we had our PSAT day. It was October 18th, and freshmen, sophomores, and juniors had to report to their assigned classrooms and take their digital PSAT, which I admit there were some shortcomings because, technical difficulties, but it went it went pretty well. And during this time, seniors, they had the option to arrive late, but these seniors that got there, they waited in the cafeteria. We did our annual senior picture where we sit on the bleachers, they take the big picture, it gets framed. And we also took the one where we're formed into our, the 2024. So that went really well, and then we did our little senior mural with the handprints alongside it. So senior events have been up, we've been doing pretty good. They were expected to go back to class at 11 o'clock, and I saw a lot of seniors back, but I also know that a lot of seniors weren't back. So that's that, but I do think that we did the best, or the senior class officers did the best they could to control that. There are also a lot of other class events, tomorrow the seniors are having a movie night, and even the freshmen are getting set up. We had our freshman elections today during our flex period, and they should be closing by this Friday. And a freshman forum to help them get adjusted into high school, aware of certain issues, will be on October 30th, which is in 5 days, and it'll discuss very sensitive but important topics like awareness regarding vaping and the damage it does to your health, and also suicide prevention. On a lighter note, our fall sports are wrapping up. A lot of sports have had their senior nights, which I believe is their last home game.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that means, and we've had a lot of senior nights so far, which means that a lot of sports teams have already had their last home game. There isn't too much after that. So the season is wrapping up, and that includes football. We have our last home game, I believe, tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. And it's going to be a pink out in honor of breast cancer awareness, and there's going to be a bake sale during it, lots of good stuff. And lastly, in sports news, our Danbury cross-country team got second place in FCX, which is basically the Fairfield County Athletic Conference, so it's very impressive. Also, the PTO has been organizing a lot of fundraisers. Each week, there's a certain restaurant where if you go to them during a specific time frame, and you mention DHS or DHS PTO Restaurant Week, they'll donate a percentage of the proceeds to the DHS PTO. Fun fact, the last one is today, so if you're a little hungry after this, Pippa Sports Cafe, mention DHS, and they will give some of the proceeds to DHS PTO, and that money is going to go towards teacher and staff appreciation, along with raffles, gifts, and prizes for the seniors. And parent-teacher conferences are going to be right before Thanksgiving break on Monday, November 20th, and Tuesday, November 21st. And there's also a lot of events coming up to support, seniors like me that are applying to college, like a financial aid night on December 8th, and Line by Line FAFSA assistance, which is a huge help, and that's out there advertised through Student Square, Parent Square, should be going to all the students and parents' emails. So that's an option out there for them. We just had a virtual college night. It went well. There was like over 100 people in attendance, and that was this Monday, I believe. Aside from that, the missed out policy, which I know you guys were very curious about last time, it seems to be shaping out well. I do see a lot less people in the halls. Still people in the halls regardless, but it's been a lot better, especially compared to last year. So that's a big plus. And that pretty much wraps up all DHS news, anything that happened going forward. So if you have any questions, we have to answer them.
I think you covered it, so
Very impressive, very impressive.
Very detailed report, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Serena and Maya, thank you both.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank
very
you.
much.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Sure you want to stick around?
I got a dog
Yeah,
to
it gets
take
fun
out.
after
Are
that.
you going to Pippa's? Just tell us you're going to Pippa's. We're okay with that.
Yeah, just go to Pippa's.
All right, guys.
Thank you, bye, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll jump to public participation. So the board welcomes public participation and asks that speakers please limit their comments to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer objective comments of school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit an expression of personal complaints or defamatory comments about Board of Education personnel and students, nor against any person connected with Danbury Public School System. And I have a name here, Tara Raimondo? Raimondo, okay. And it's at the 2-minute 30 mark, we'll give you a warning
Okay.
at 30 seconds left.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Tara Raimondelli. I'm a parent of 2 girls in Pembroke Elementary School, a kindergartner and a 2nd grader. My profession, I'm a school psychologist with over 20 years in education, so I'm bringing both fronts to my statement tonight. I was able to speak with Mr. Walston yesterday regarding the recent events regarding the Pembroke investigation. While I do appreciate his time and his willingness to speak to me, I did feel the need to voice my concerns to the Board of Ed as well. Last year, you heard a plea of so many distraught parents begging for faster action and more urgency taken when looking into the bomb threats made to our school. You heard stories about how children were being traumatized by these events. It's now 10 months later, and the outcome of the investigation has devastated our community. Our children were left in a building with an adult who repeatedly threatened their safety, someone who they were told that they could trust for months on end. As a community, as a district, we cannot accept this, and as a parent, I am appalled that the district and the board allowed this to happen. The district is charged with the heavy weight of keeping thousands of precious, defenseless lives safe, as well as those dedicated teachers and staff members that work with them every day. We can't fix what happened, but we can use this experience to grow. While I do understand the unlikelihood of this happening again, the daily threat of school violence is very real in our country. We have the chance now to use this experience. Sandy Hook, Uvalde, Columbine, they were all tragedies that, upon reflection, had red flags identified. Let's not wait until Danbury is faced with an unimaginable devastation to improve. We need the district and the board to take action so that this never happens again. I urge the board and the district to increase security at Pembroke so that our students are safe while this individual has been released on bail. In addition, increase the emotional support to the students who are still dealing with the fear that this will happen again at school. Sending an email stating that support is available is simply not enough. Aside from the loss of trust, we also lost our sense of community. While I'm very happy to have Principal Perez leading Pembroke, there has to be more done at the district level to support the school, to rebuild what was broken. Increased communication with the families at Pembroke would be a start. It was not until almost 3 months later and 4 bomb threats that a meeting was held to address parent concerns, during which we were faced with a combative board who showed no compassion or empathy. We were promised weekly updates, which ended within weeks of our meeting. I urge the board to take this opportunity to review our district-wide safety protocols and communication with the families within the district. We should accept nothing less than the highest level of urgency and response when one of our buildings is threatened. This applies to any authority that we may be working with, our administration teams, and our staff. As a parent, I'm more than happy to assist in any way possible with any safety plans, and I would appreciate any opportunity if there are building safety committees to be a part of that. Thank you.
There's only one name on the list. Is there anyone else that'd like to say anything? Okay. Thank you very much. All right, superintendent's report.
Okay, we have 3 items as part of the update this evening. One of them is regarding our budget calendar that was previously reviewed with our finance committee. And so I wanted to underscore the month of November for the board. November 1st starts really some activity that we're going to see. It's really going to play a role in informing our ask and request for the 24-25 school year. So we have a sites and facilities meeting on November 1st, in which we plan to talk about projected enrollment, facilities and projects, technology, and any security upgrades for the 24-25 school year. You will also see we have carved out, I will be meeting with the leadership team at our next meeting regarding reviewing our separate costs associated with the Academies of Danbury model. And so we will make sure we have that for our budget as previously requested and as part of superintendent's goals. In the later in November, we will have a draft of our request by looking to try to have this in your hands by November 10th ahead of the finance committee meeting, so that we can have an opportunity to review the draft budget presentation. And my goal really is to make sure the board as currently constituted has an opportunity to review the budget requests, what we anticipate the request to be for 25-25 school year. And so I think, I know in your packet, you may not have the colored version, but in your packet you have the budget calendar. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to walk you through some of the upcoming events. I know there have been some discussions about grants and associated with our budget for next year.
What page is that on?
Towards the back. Towards the end. Towards the end. Just grab the end. Veterans.
And so where it says budget presentation, the team and I will be working on the actual presentation and gathering all of the details that we need to inform requests for 24-25. And again, we will like to have that available for our Finance Committee meeting on the 14th and have an opportunity to review it in small group and then be prepared to share our anticipated requests for the 24-25 school year at our Monday board meeting ahead of Thanksgiving. So I wanted to start there. And if I can, Board Chair, if I can go through these three, I'm happy to take any questions that you might have. Previously, I had talked about, and this is really in an effort to try to secure talent, given the shortages in staff that we have across the district. We are looking to partner with the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program. I had a meeting with this group last week, Kelly Trucius and I think it was a really good meeting, really informative meeting. I just received an executive summary about the program yesterday, so I will forward that to the board's attention so you can have more information. I had shared information in a previous communication with the board, but I just want to, now that we're here together tonight, give you a little bit more update on what the program offers. So essentially what happens in the Connecticut Teacher Residency Program, they are helping us find people who have a bachelor's degree. And it's kind of an alternate route for certification like program. And so people who have a bachelor's degree, they would be partnered, we would partner through this program. They would help them get certification and they will have the instructors to help them get certification. The commitment from the district is that we would hire these people at no less than $50,000. And I'm sorry, $65,000 including benefits.
It was salary 29,000 plus benefits, and
And then the
could be
fee.
higher if needed. And then there's also a stipend attached to the Danbury Public Schools teacher that would serve as the mentor, essentially the student teaching placement.
Right, and so the cost of the district, I think we estimated it would be about $65,000 per person after fees, after our cost associated with the program, benefits, et cetera. And so our quick math on this, we could be at anywhere between $450,000 to $500,000. The board should know there is actually a grant specifically that can be specifically leveraged for this purpose. And so we have every reason to think that when we submit an application for this using this program as one of the major leverage points, we think it's going to be accepted. And so we will have some further updates for the board really soon, but we're really excited about the program, potentially what it can offer. We know that we have some paraprofessionals in the system now that we hope will be interested in the program. But there's also some opportunity to try to secure some talent in the region for people who might be interested in coming to this profession. There are some nice incentives that are associated with the program. And so if we have paraprofessionals who are making $25,000, $28,000, number one, it's an opportunity for them to be supported. And hopefully this will address some retention efforts that, some goals that we have as well as a district. So really excited, more information to come. Some of the concrete next steps. The expectation is after reviewing the contract agreement, we would sign, they would sign, and then we would have some of those immediate next steps. We'll get into the community. I think January starts the cycle for this next cohort. So we would like to get something secured before this next cycle, because this could potentially mean a difference for us as soon as September, the beginning of this school year. So really excited about that. We'll have more information to follow. And as I said, I just received an executive summary from the representative from the residency program. I'll be sharing that with the board with some supporting materials. Last but not least, and this is a reminder, and I also want to speak about the parents who just left. Just as a reminder, the Academies of Danbury Phase 2 construction update and walkthrough is on Thursday, October 26th. I believe an invitation, invitation has been extended to the board. And so just want to make sure, if you did not have it on your calendar, make sure you have it on your calendar. And it's 11 o'clock in front of The Carter's building, yes, well, it is in the front of the building, yes. It's in the back of the campus, but it's in the front of the building, that's correct, that's correct. And so last but not least, I know we just had a really concerned parent who just left, and we had, along with, so it was Tara and Jody, I had both on a call yesterday, a Zoom call yesterday, and both had expressed really concerns about the process and the fact that this information was released in a news article last weekend, ahead of the press release from the police department and ahead of our notice from the school district. And as I shared yesterday in our meeting, and certainly if we had an opportunity to do it over, we would, going into the arrest of this person, we had an agreement with the police department that we would side by side send out a press release and a notice to our families and the community. And the agreement was the police department would go first, and then we would go immediately second. And we knew that she was going to be, this person was going to be arrested ahead of our planned notice to the community, and frankly did not anticipate that we would have this article released the weekend prior to Monday. And so I did share that with the family. It certainly was unfortunate that the information was released before we could push out the information. And then you'll notice, if you look back kind of the timeline, on Monday, I believe it was Monday afternoon, the police department released their letter, their press release. And as planned, we had sent out our notice to the families. And I believe it was a day later, we had sent a follow-up letter to our Pembroke families, specifically making sure there was an invitation extended to them if there were any additional supports that we could provide for that community, that the district was available to do so, obviously through the principal, and then we would try to make sure we would deploy supports to that building. And so we also had talked about, and I think and I don't know if this was clear this evening, and I certainly understand the parents' point, and I'm sure some other parents at Pembroke feel the same way. And the question was posed to me, why was this person allowed to stay on if they were a suspect as part of the investigation? And I clarified at that time, and I know in the timeline in the newspaper, kind of shared the investigation timeline. Obviously it was missing a lot of pieces as part of that timeline. But the reality is we didn't have absolute certainty until well into, we didn't have certainty until this summer. When was it? I'm sorry.
Start of the school year.
Right. And so we didn't have the certainty that we needed. We had suspects, and there's an investigation unfolding. And I understand in the conversation with parents regarding the safety and welfare of their children, there's not really much I can say at that moment that's going to provide any comfort, and I totally understood that. And I still understand that. We were no longer the lead investigator in this case. It was made clear to us, and as I shared with the family, that once someone outside of a child became a suspect, we were no longer the lead investigator on the case. And so because of that, we were taking their lead and waiting for information to come back before we made any personnel moves here in the district. We stayed in constant communication with the police department throughout this process, and in fact asked questions about not really asking for permission to make a personnel move, but making sure we worked in cooperation with them before we made an HR personnel-like move. And so I just wanted to also share with the board that I know we've had some discussions in executive session as well about this. And so I don't think we're really going to hear anything new this evening. But certainly I understand the parents and their frustrations and their concerns. And we did have a conversation as both moms, Jody didn't speak, but as Tara had shared this tonight.
Question, Teresa?
I'm pretty upset that they seem to think that the Board of Ed, what was the term they used? I was shocked.
Combative and
Yeah,
not compassionate.
Yeah.
I mean, where did that come from? I mean, we're not allowed to say anything when they're speaking, and I'm just floored. I'm just floored at that impression. And I'm very, very upset now. I'm very upset.
So let me ask a question. So what have we, in the light of, you know, it coming out and information, what have we done at the school level to help offer support proactively?
We had a meeting with the school.
I'm talking about,
Now,
it's out, the person was arrested, the school started, it's out there. What have we done as a district right now proactively to, I'm talking to anybody. I'm not directing it to you, Kelly, I'm just looking at, so what have we done proactively to help support the staff, the students? I mean, more security, I mean, what have we done?
So we, ahead of the press release, it was important for us to make sure we were at the school, to speak with staff, and which is what I did, along with the team, and Principal Perez, of course, was in attendance, but frankly, all of this happened prior to her assuming the leadership role at the building, but obviously she was there. And so we had an opportunity to talk to the staff, make them aware of the press release that was about to go out. And frankly, I think much like our entire Pembroke community, they were upset. And I think folks needed time to kind of digest what they had just heard, because they, like our parents who you heard frustration from tonight, were also disappointed, frustrated, upset. I think, I mean, there's a number of different words I think we can use to express how they felt. But we also, that evening, that afternoon, let them know that, you know, through Dana Perez, the principal, obviously if there's any support that we can provide for staff, we're certainly here to make sure staff is deployed to help to support them. Pembroke, during the time of all of this, and just to remind the board, we upgraded our technology and security upgrades. We made security upgrades during the Christmas break of that year. And so all that new technology is in place at the building. We still continue to have an additional safety advocate at that school, understanding that it's a priority, understanding it's still a sensitive time on that campus. So those security measures and those supports are still in place at the building. As I had mentioned in a conversation with the parents yesterday, you know, we had also spoke with Principal Ethel prior to her retiring and got feedback from her and the staff about, you know, some of their additional needs to help keep the community safe. As you might recall, we had a number of evacuations in that building, unfortunate evacuations obviously, but we also had students outside who were outside in inclement weather, outside for extended periods of time. And so it was important, you know, as per the principal at that time, to make sure that we had resources for staff to keep kids warm, to keep our kids sheltered, make sure that they were dry if it was wet outside. Make sure the evacuation plan was reviewed to make sure students were not pushed back into the snow or in places that were unsafe for them. So all those things were reviewed, post-evacuation plans, and last but not least, additional radios were purchased for the staff there. The board may or may not know, we have a lot of paraprofessionals at the school supporting students as well as teacher staff. And so additional radios were also afforded to the principal and for staff, to just help improve communications over at the campus. And Kelly, I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to offer, but I just wanted to make sure I shared this.
Before we go on any further, let me just rephrase the question. Right after it was released that they found a suspect and she was arrested and removed from the building, were there any additional school psychologists, counselors, anything sent to the school to help with the, you know, the stress and you know, stuff that's non-security related? I know one safety advocate, does that make a difference?
Yes.
Probably not, but the psychological part of it, that's what I meant.
Yes, so we went over, as Mr. Wilson said, met with the staff, the cabinet team. We also had increased presence in the building to meet with staff one-on-one or in small groups, and then follow up for both staff and families in the days following.
Lauren?
So, I have so many questions, but, so you met with the families, or the staff to tell them this was happening, but then we wait a whole weekend, and the families find out, but the staff knew on Friday, and then.
That's not the timeline.
But is that, we're not supposed to ask you a question, but,
We can't address you directly, Q&A inside the meeting, we apologize.
sorry, but to my understanding, that's what the parents felt happened, and,
That's not what happened.
okay.
So we went over to speak to the staff on Monday. Monday afternoon, we had a special kind of emergency meeting.
Okay.
And this was ahead of the communication just ahead of the communication we sent out to the entire school community. Really just, I think we shared it with the board on Monday, and then we shared it with right after we sent it out to the board, we went over to the staff in person and spoke to them. And then, of course, the entire community received the letter.
Okay.
And then we pushed out an additional communication specifically for Pembroke parents. I believe it was the next day.
Okay, so then just a quick follow-up to that. Kind of Ralph's question. You were there in the days immediately following this release, but are we still in the school helping the families, not just the staff, helping? And then are we helping the children that were at one point suspects, that were brought in, that were questioned? Are they getting any additional supports? Because that's a big deal for a kid that was questioned and quizzed and then questioned again. So they also need to feel secure now, and then they went through that questioning. So there's a lot of pieces, and are we taking care of all of those pieces in addition to the staff and extra radio?
I'll go first. And so I think, and I was mentioning this earlier, I think we have to rely on the school for any supports that are needed at that building. And that invitation has been extended to Principal Perez. And so, part of our message to staff that day, certainly and our invitation to families at home, if they feel the need that their children need additional support at the school, meaning beyond the social worker and school psychologist could provide at that building. And we've done this before, and we will make sure those additional supports are provided to the school. Kelly, her team has done this before, and if there's a demand for it and the requests are made, we'll make sure that they're out there. But we have not heard many through Principal Perez yet, and if they come, we will make sure we have resources available.
So they're here, and if we have parents here, there's parents that aren't talking, and maybe Principal Perez, being that she's new in her position and she can handle it, and I know that, and we have confidence in her, but maybe we need to support her a little more, and maybe she isn't comfortable reaching, we don't know, but we need to be there, is my point, so I'm gonna be done now.
Bridget?
Is there an opportunity to adjust the curriculum on the K through 5 level just at Pembroke? So that, I know that we have time each week for social work time. Is there an opportunity to increase that time a little bit so that we can school-wide, not pinpoint it to any particular classroom or any particular child, address some of this through the curriculum we already have in place, the infrastructure that's already there? Is there a plan for that, or is that something that we can do?
And Kelly, as you, I just want to add quickly, we started this, we were intentional about this immediately after the incidents, and trying to be proactive about building community in a way through activities at the school. And so I just wanted to remind you that, before you answer, Kelly. So
just on the support level, we have 2 school psychologists and a social worker that are at Pembroke as regular assignments, which is more PBS staff than typical, and part of that is due to some of the special programming that's housed within that building. So Principal Perez, for those of you that are not aware, is also a former school counselor, so has a pupil services background. And so she's been an instrumental support. I know between myself, Mr. Walston, other members of the cabinet, there's been daily ongoing communication, if not multiple times a day, also inclusive of the chief of schools. So we are constantly checking in. So for example, who are we seeing as far as students? How many requests are we getting as far as parents? What staff members are needing support? Who needs additional follow-up support? Is that person best served to be a member of the Pembroke school community or someone else? And that is where we've brought in an extra outside resources. It's a Danbury Public Schools employee, but someone that's not typically assigned to Pembroke to provide additional support. So that has been done. And will continue to be done. We have not found the need to have the person there consistently every day as we've addressed the needs. But Principal Perez is aware that at a moment's notice, if she needs additional support, we will push that in, as we do in many schools across the district when there's a crisis situation that arises, I should say. The other thing is the messaging to the staff was, we need to rebuild, repair, and I think that was said with the families, lean on each other and provide support. I will tell you, after the meeting that we had, many of our staff members kind of gathered together with groups that they were close to, right? And had conversations, and many of us, myself included, pushed into those to check in on people, to have support. There were follow-up conversations outside. You have to judge what people need in that moment. The message from Principal Perez has been to make sure that kids are feeling safe, to take care of those social emotional needs in the classroom, to seek out the outside support if so needed, at any moment, to not be afraid to call and seek out an outside resource. And so that piece is there. Have we altered or changed the curriculum? No, not at this point in time. And also to make sure that we're continuing to educate and hold high expectations while taking care of that social emotional needs. So it's that balance, right, between addressing the needs as they arise and making sure that we provide consistency and normalcy for our children.
Teresa?
Can I make one recommendation, maybe? Maybe hold a Board of Ed meeting at the school one night, showing our support that way. It seems like they think we're disengaged from all of this, and I feel really bad what she said. And I'm just thinking that, hold a meeting there, show that we care. Just my 2 cents.
Michelle?
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'm very upset as well, because we did have a meeting at Pembroke and board members were asked to attend, and we did, and we got a lot of the information, like the parents did. I know that we've had executive meetings and meetings, sidebar, and always brought up what's going on with Pembroke. Now, the whole reason that I think there's a lack of communication is it's under investigation. Was a lot of the time we did not get any real, information because it was in process. So, I think that there is a disconnect in understanding what the role of the board was. I mean, as far as we are concerned, we knew that as a parent, how difficult it is to go every day, go back to. So when we actually had our meeting, I was like, make sure you reach out to the citywide PTO, Chrissy, specifically, and let her know as soon as we were allowed to release information. I remember making that statement. So it's we take it personally because we were worried and are still worried. I'm on sites and facilities, been working with Mike. We added a whole new part to the program that we were developing for the security to make sure that we had the ability to reunite when these situations happened and they were outside and we could count people and who was gonna, really spent a lot of time in trying to, fix some of the issues that we saw were happening, and some obviously they're, physical. The emotional, obviously, as you were saying, it's kind of complicated, but we feel your pain. And so, I think that's why we're taking it personally because, we're parents and we understand. And, whatever we can do, call, please. Our lines are available to speak to you. If you don't feel like you're getting heard, that's why we're here. We're sitting here for that reason. So I want to thank you for bringing it up because if you don't, we don't know. So thank you. And thank you for the time.
And I'd like to say, if I was talking directly to someone, the people that are here, I would say, obviously I was at that meeting, and I'd like to just say that if it was my kid's school, you guys were fairly calm. Well, we're not talking anyone specific. Pembroke parents were fairly calm at that meeting based off of the lack of information that we provided. I would be, well, let's not say what I would do, but we were frustrated in the fact that we had very little information to provide because of the investigation. And we were told by police, other places, other institutions that were involved to kind of try to say something without saying anything. And that's a problem. So anything we said that night, my opinion, didn't really help because we really didn't say much. The only thing we could say, and sometimes we don't do a good job of doing it, and is that we understand and we felt for the situation. But, you know, you can't, you know, it was difficult, believe it or not, it was difficult for us as well because we're sitting there and we want to go there to try to show you that at the highest level, I mean, we're the Board of Ed, we're the highest level, that we do care and we're trying to do everything that we could have done at the time with the information and what we were allowed to say. Now, just being there and kind of talking to everybody, apparently didn't help much, so I apologize for that. But, you know, we did, you know, we do care, it's just, you know, I don't know what to say. But so I was talking to somebody else, I think going back, we didn't want to wait until we had more, and I think we were all there and really didn't know what to say, to be honest. And it was just trying to be, I got you, Al, I got you, all right? I got you, all right? I'm out here for 3 more weeks, let me say what I gotta say, man, all right?
Me too, Ralph.
So just, I mean, we're laughing now, it's not really funny, so I'm just saying is, I understand, but I can't say if I feel the way you feel because I'm not in it. But the Pembroke community is a strong community. I've been around a long time. I mean, my mom used to work at the school years ago. It's a strong community. So you guys were a lot calmer than I think I would have been in a situation like that, so we do appreciate that. And you guys, from what I understand, I know Dana very well, and even before that, guys pulled together as a community, school community, and that says a lot about the Pembroke community. So I don't know if there was an apology in there somewhere, but you know, I'm just saying that at the time we thought we did whatever we can do, thinking it would help, but apparently it didn't. So I guess I am apologizing for that. Go ahead, Al.
Thank you, Ralph. I'm also here for 4 weeks. Is that all it is? All right. Kevin, my point is I was also at that meeting with Ralph where we engaged the Pembroke community. And I know it was frustrating for them because we could only share what you could share. And I didn't even know all of it. Because if you shared more, you would compromise the investigation and the person wouldn't have been brought to justice because the investigation would have been compromised. So I understand your intent, I understand your actions, and I understand the frustration of the parents, having 6 kids myself. There was a question I got today on the phone about once this person of interest was developed as a person of interest, the delay in removing them from the school. But I had no direct answer. I referred, hopefully that they will contact your office. I gave them the police officer side is, unless there's probable cause for an arrest, and you have mere suspicion, you might, if you defame someone's character, the only thing you could probably kind of done different, maybe putting on paid administrative leave. But that may have compromised the investigation and they wouldn't have been brought to justice, which is, thank you. Thank you, Board Chair, for giving me my 30 seconds.
You're welcome, Al.
Have we taken the opportunity to reassess our security protocols without going into detail, because that's not something we should share publicly, but have we taken the opportunity to reassess since the arrest?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So in addition, as Board Chair said, we do have an extra advocate there. I'm in almost daily contact with Danbury Police Department about Pembroke and a number of other issues happening just around the community, making judgments about whether that's going to affect us. I've requested increased patrol around Pembroke, especially since this news broke a few weeks ago. So there's regularly patrol going through there, especially around, the peak times when kids are kind of coming and going, because that's when they're outside the building. And we've had now 2 different meetings with Danbury Police Department, Emergency Services, Matt Kaspecki's office, as well as, it was the recommendation of this board that we get back in touch with FCI, because we had a relationship with them back several years ago that I think just sort of petered out. So we've now brought them back into the conversation too, about having a potential evacuation site there should students need to leave the school. We've also engaged Hallis Farm, which is just adjacent to the school, as another potential evacuation site if students need to leave. And we are working closely with Principal Perez on just rethinking her entire safety plan to correct some of these potential gaps. Additionally, while going through this process, we've identified certain things like fence areas, places where gates need to be, and potentially some shelter areas that we're going to be looking at more closely so that we can build them into the budget and make sure they're priorities for the next budget cycle.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Gladys.
Trying to get my thoughts together. For Pembroke and the Pembroke family, students, parents, I don't know how to say how I would react if that had happened to me. But I guess what I would like to say, from what I've heard and what Michael has just said, I was gonna ask about increased security. How do you, if there's something going on with leadership there that we're not comfortable of, how can we improve it? And it's not just, hopefully that never happened to any one of our other schools. What are we gonna do moving forward to make those parents, those students, because at that young age, constantly questioning, it mixes up a student. So you have to have someone, psychology or wherever you guys say, whatever we need to help those parents and help those students. So Pembroke has happened. We knew as board members there's certain information that we couldn't give out. We know what the FBI and all these other people were doing, okay? And at a certain point, when we're given the okay to talk about something, that's when we talk about it to the parents. I would like to know, what are we going to do moving forward? Is there somehow that we can increase, when we get to the hiring process, and I know a lot of things don't come out until that person get in that position, but somewhere there's a mark somewhere when people start doing things that we think that are not normal behavior. Where does it start at, and where do we look at it as a district? Is it hiring, testing? What do we do to make it better and make sure that it does not happen to any of our other schools?
Kim, can you just talk about the background check and stuff that we do when we hire people?
Right, so we're required, and we do, run background checks on anyone that's gonna work with kids. And that background check includes not only fingerprinting, which goes through the FBI system, so we'll see any kind of convictions, have anywhere nationwide, it's also local. We also do a DCF check, and these things are all required, by state law for us when we do our hiring. And the DCF check requires the applicant to sign a release to say, these are the people that are in my household, and DCF runs their check to see if these people are on the register or if there's anything else that would be a flag. In this case, without kind of going into too long, this was a long-term employee. So this was not something that would have, I'm not sure what we would be looking for in the hiring process, but it's not something that for this person, anything would have shown up. I will say that there are many times that particularly Kelly and I will partner together when we see behavior that's concerning from any member of our staff. It could be a mental health issue, it could be a physical issue, it could be a harassment environment issue, any one of those things. Obviously, because we're so big, those tend to come through a building administrator or a supervisor or a coworker. I serve as also your Title IX officer, so people who have concerns about the behavior of others in the workplace towards them. Could be violence, could be, harassment of some kind. So those are all things that will intervene as part of the regular employment process. So conduct an investigation, do some counseling, partner together with Kelly and her team to figure out if there's anything that we need to be looking at. So it's a complicated thing, because you do have that bucket of new hires, and a fingerprint or a background check is only gonna tell us somebody that's got a background. So there's not much we can do with that. We don't do any other kind of testing, we don't do any kind of profiling or anything like that. So we do check references. Everyone is required to, everyone who's a hiring person involved in the hiring process is required to make contact with several references. And oftentimes we'll get some final hiring reports, and I'll go back to the administrator during the hiring and say, I need you to try to find, a more current reference or somebody from the employment process. So we do what we can to find out at hire. And then the second ball of wax, if you will, is people who've been here, for a long time. And people do go through different crises in their lives that causes behavior that, we may or may not see coming. And we try to identify and intervene, not just with discipline, but also we have a very strong EAP program. So if people are really struggling, we try to get them employee assistance, or urge them to work with employee assistance. We've also pulled union reps in with some people to say, gee, we could partner with you to kind of get some help for somebody who's really struggling. So it's complicated, but it's really, it's event driven. Oftentimes we're reacting rather than proacting. And that's just because we can only, respond to what we see.
Jesse has
So do we currently have any type of program or protocol to, I guess you should say, prevent mental, health? Like if somebody notices that somebody seems a little off, there's a protocol that's in place to kind of alert and have that person maybe go see someone that can evaluate them?
Right, so we can't require people to do that, but,
We can't.
we cannot. Sometimes what will often happen is in the course of an investigation where we're trying to figure out what's happening with someone. And again, we may be partnering with some of the PPS staff in the building. But we do, and I do regularly work with these union reps to say, hey, this might be a good time for them to call. If you go to mysigma.com, and everybody has access, whether you buy our plan or not, you have access to that. And they have all sorts of, now, there's proliferation of resources. So you could do virtual meetings, you can do phone calls, they can hook you up with, people that you could go and see in person. And there's a whole range of things. I can't require anybody to do that, but I certainly can urge it. And we have done that on many occasions here. And I think to great success. I think it's been a pretty effective addition. We've had that program for maybe 5 years. And we see a lot more people now accessing it. One of the things we do annually is we look at our insurance plan and instance impact, and we've seen that there are a lot more people in the district that are accessing those resources. So we also try to push out regular programming. So through the benefits office in my office, our benefits coordinator will try to push out webinars, or this month's mental health month, and here's a webinar you might find interesting. So we try to kind of get as many resources as we can out for our employees, because it's just good practice. It's a good benefit to be able to offer people, and I think that what used to be the thing that no one wanted to access because they didn't want anyone to know, lots more people access now. So I think that's a good thing.
Thank you.
Teresa?
Were there, in hindsight, were there any red flags for this particular person?
I wouldn't say so.
Nothing that came to anybody's attention? Just curious.
Quick question.
Gotcha.
Do we have any idea how this leaked to the newspapers prior to the information they released from the school?
I can answer.
Right, I think it's because it's public available information. Kim?
The News Times accessed the arrest warrant, and
Oh.
the arrest warrant came through the judicial
Yes.
system, and is a public document, and so all of the timeline and everything was pulled directly out of there as well.
Yeah.
So they shared exactly what was in that.
Mhm.
That's why it was detailed the way it was.
Right, we only released our statement and repeated that this will be our only statement.
So, moving forward, do we have a way to prevent, in case, God forbid, something like this happens again, to prevent that the news, the conference, the information that we're gonna release, hit the news first prior to the information that you will release to the.
Right, and so, thanks for that question, Julie, because when I met with, moms yesterday, upon reflection, I think I would have pushed back on the police department a little bit more and say, the minute an arrest is made, let's push out a press release right now.
Yeah.
And instead, there was a little bit of time in between the actual arrest and, the press release going out. And so hopefully we'll never have anything like this again.
Yeah.
But if there is, because we did work in collaboration throughout this entire process. But upon reflection, I think we would have been best to, there was an arrest, get it out first. There was a couple of other moves that we needed to make ahead of this meeting, that we could not pull off until all the stars did not align. But given the events that we're talking about this evening, it would have been better to release it immediately. I think that, I don't know how much that would have helped,
Yeah.
but it certainly would have, I think it would have been better received coming
Yes,
from us
from the
first than
to
in
the
the newspaper,
community.
no doubt about it.
Thank you.
Take the last question from Michelle, but I want to move on from this. But I just want to say before that, anybody who's wanting to stick around and after the meeting, ask any questions individually, we're here for that.
So I just have one question, and I know that, we found out who was responsible through fingerprints, right? And there were a few suspects. Did everybody get fingerprinted that was suspected? I think I had heard something like some of them participated, maybe one or two did not.
So I don't know if it's
I don't-
accurate, we had a few suspects.
Yeah, I don't know that we can really answer that. I mean, the police drove that whole process. So our only role was to conduct kind of verbal interviews as we were trying to figure out the situation, but the police were fully responsible for eliciting, asking for, securing, who they're gonna, as part of their investigation. It was not.
Okay.
It was.
So the
I don't really
fingerprinting-
know all the answers.
Okay, so that is not in our wheelhouse, that's the police and how the suspect, whatever is, okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, Kevin, do you have anything else on the superintendent's report?
I do not.
I just want to publicly thank Kara P., who had to deal with me setting this stuff up for Gladys's celebration. I'm sure it was not easy for her, so thank you, Kara, if you're home watching this. And Barry and Sodexo and his group put in on a nice spread and really did a great job with that. And for everyone who spoke and was there to help us celebrate Ms. Cooper. I think it was a great event, and I think, and it's well-deserved, Ms. Cooper, so I'm just glad that you enjoyed it. And if anyone else wants to make any comments before we adjourn, Teresa?
And thank you, Ralph, for the ice cream.
Yes.
Where's that ice cream? Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Ralph? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to congratulate the Office of Family, School, and Community Partnerships. They did a Parent University program on Saturday over at Rogers Park. It was really a nice event, well-attended. It's a great opportunity for families to learn a little bit more about how our district's working. At that particular event, they had financial literacy and college planning program. They did a reading and math literacy program so that parents could learn about the curriculum for young students who are starting out in the schools. They had a special education expert there who was sharing information about how to get services for your students. There was drug and alcohol use prevention program, a program about dealing with bullying. So I just would encourage, families who are looking to get a better handle on how the schools handle different things and looking to get a little bit more involved. There's gonna be another one scheduled for April 6th, 2024. That's the next one, so we hope you'll be there.
Al, you had something?
Yes. One last round of applause for Gladys Cooper.
Anything else?
Motion adjourned.
I'd like to motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Al, second